Looks like it's a no-go in the old new trial department for Alec Murdaugh. But what about all the odd little interesting things that we learned during the recent hearing? Let's talk about all of it in today's video. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back there. Roscoe's on it. And I'm in front of it. And my name's Paul. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the sofa, whichever one applies to you. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be reviewing that recent hearing. This was an evidentiary hearing where they were going over stuff with jurors and asking them questions to see if there had been, any influence from the clerk of court, Rebecca Hill, whole 9 yards. So the way the video is going to be laid out is we're going to be looking at video clips and going over a couple of article pieces to dive a little bit deeper into some aspects of it. And that's all. I'm going to be commenting on it, giving my opinion, that type thing. And remember that it's just that my opinions are just opinions. I ain't nothing fancy. I'm no doctor. I'm no lawyer. I'm no cop. I ain't nothing credentialed or fancy, okay? Unless the sofa and the dog comes with credentials, but last I checked, they don't, okay? Just keep that in mind. So anyways, what we would first do is we're going to do a quick, I'm talking like maybe 3 sentences on my script overview of this for those who aren't familiar with it. But before we do that, if you do want to follow Roscoe and I on the old Insta, on the old gram, on the Instagram, it's on the screen. It's in the description. Go on, click it. All right, so let's talk about how we arrived at this video. Alec Murdaugh recently had a hearing in regard to seeking a new trial. Now, this stems from the allegations of misconduct and jury tampering by the clerk of court, Rebecca Hill, Becky Hill. The defense claimed that jurors were influenced by her actions and statements. Now, Alec Murdaugh was found guilty of taking the lives of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, as well as numerous financial crimes in the last year or so. Today, I want to specifically look at that recent hearing, though, and talk about some aspects of it. Okay, so that's literally just who's who and where we arrived at this video. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So the jurors would come in, they would be asked these battery of questions by the judge, essentially trying to find out, what did you hear? Did it influence you? Did you color outside the lines in the coloring book? The whole 9 yards, right? It felt like before we could even get started with this, though, that the shenanigans began. Let's look at this clip from Court TV, and then we're going to talk about it.
Counsel, I have to report this to you, and I'm very, very unhappy about it, but there's nothing to do but put it on the record, and then I will proceed with questioning the rest of the jurors. The jurors' cell phones were not confiscated or taken from them, and they tuned this thing in on Court TV and listened to all of what just went on. So, you may make whatever statement you like to make, and then I'm going to go on and question the jurors. I will tell you in advance, I am not going to stop the proceedings or do anything to interrupt them. I'm going to get the rest of this on the record. You might imagine that they no longer have their cell phones with them.
I mean, drinketh from the cuppeth on that one. It cannot roll my eyes hard enough at that, y'all. Drinketh from the cuppeth, I forgot. I mean, bottoms up that right there. Okay, first and foremost, I praise the judge for putting it out there. Everybody, I'm putting this out here. Here's what happened. We're taking ownership and accountability of this. Didn't take their phones. On top of all that's gone on, this is what put this into a circus, 3-ring circus. I was like, are you kidding me? Right then and there, I was like, it's a wrap. It's right. They're gonna whatever. So when she said, I'm not gonna, stop trial, whatever, I was like, okay, good. But I was like, I'm shocked, right? And they'll bring this back up. Why would anyone in their right mind, after all that has gone on, pull up Court TV and watch the proceedings? Why? Why would you even think to do that? It's this level of BS with this whole situation that has me just pulling my hair out. Now, let's get into some of that questions that the judge was asking, and specifically with the juror of the moment, Juror Z, the one that was like, yes, I was influenced, all that kind of stuff. Let's listen to a little montage here of the questions put together. What I've done with this is some of the long pauses. I edited those out for time constraints, so that's where there's some jumping in it to get to the actual point of the specific questions and answers of them. Again, this is from Court TV, so let's go ahead and take a look.
If yes, what did Ms. Hill say?
To watch his actions.
To watch his actions. What else?
To watch him closely.
To watch him closely. Was your verdict influenced in any way by the communications of the clerk of court in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And how was it influenced? Did that affect your finding of guilty in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all, that part, for me, I was like, it's done. He's getting a new trial. Okay, I was like, he's getting a new trial. For a juror to get up there and say that, I was like, what? My mouth was on the floor.
When we began deliberations, Ms. Hill told us this shouldn't take us long, quote. And if we deliberated past 11 p.m., we would be taken directly to a hotel. We had driven from our homes that morning and were not prepared to stay overnight. Additionally, smokers on the jury asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks, but they were told they could not smoke until after the deliberations were complete. Did you hear that?
Yes, ma'am.
Including the business about the smokers?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, so y'all, if you follow me through this trauma that was going on, I said this then, I'll say it again. Okay, so I used to be a smoker, and I'm talking full-fledged 2-3 packs a day smoker, okay? This was many moons ago at this point, but nonetheless. So I'm speaking from a former smoker's perspective. If I was in a scenario like this where they were making it look like you can't go do blank, you can't have a cigarette until you do blank, oh, trust me, it's going to influence my decision making, okay? I'm going to be like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Even if I was already sitting here thinking, oh, he's guilty, I'm not going to be thinking it through as much because I'm going to want that cigarette. And if they had only just let me go and get my little nicotine fix in, I would have been more like, okay, let's really go through this. You know what I'm saying? So that's my opinion on that. So again, hearing this, I was like, it's a wrap. There ain't no way he ain't getting a new trial.
Number 10, I had questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by the other jurors. Is that an accurate statement about your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you know, old Poot, Harpootland, is over there just steaming. And we're going to hear from him in a few minutes. Now, we're also going to hear the judge, when she speaks at the end with her findings, bring up specific things about specifically this juror that will answer some of my questions. He may be like, oh, it's a wrap, you know, whatever. Because again, remember, I'm just talking from the sofa. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have that perspective of this. So it's just an onlooker into this where I'm like, well, hey, you know, I don't know the legal precedents is what I'm getting at. But from Roscoe and I's opinion, you know, we had him walking out of jail the next day, basically, except for those pesky little financial things that he's pled guilty to already. But you know what I'm saying. When they got to this again, I was just like, my gosh. Now, one thing, and I'll go ahead and say this now, when the judge is talking about basically like, look, we can't know what the jurors were saying. Like we're not allowed to do that. And that's a normal give and take of this type of a trial is, you know, jurors, you know, trying to come to a conclusion. And it really made me sit there and stop and think. And I was like, wow, you know, imagine being like Alec or whoever in this case. You know, and I'm not trying to sit here and side with him or whatever, you know, but regardless, if your fate's in the jurors' hands and somebody's saying, well, yeah, the jurors made me really feel pressured into saying guilty. Well, I'm thinking, so you might have thought it wasn't? Like, I could have walked or, you know what I mean? Like, gotten a new trial or whatever. Like, I would have been frustrated hearing this is what I'm getting at.
Did you hear Becky Hill, Clerk of Court for Colleton County, make any comment about this case before your verdict?
No, ma'am. I wasn't privy to any of that.
All right, sir. Was your verdict on March the 2nd, 2023 influenced in any way with any communications by the Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, in this case?
No, ma'am. It was not.
Now, what we just heard is another juror going through these same questions with a completely different answer, a completely different reality than the first one we heard. And this would be the predominant answer that the judge got of, no, it didn't influence me, I didn't hear that, or maybe I heard this, but I didn't pay attention, you know, whatever. So this juror getting up there saying, I was influenced, I was this, I was that, was the oddball out of all of them, which obviously, as you probably know by now, did not help Alex's case. Now, all that being said, let's cut to the chase of this video, of the situation. Let's hear from Miss Becky herself, and specifically when she goes up against old Poot old Harpootland, because he really drives home some of these questions. Now, here, for me, I'll say this. We're going to talk about the plagiarism. We're going to talk about that. So going into this, know this. Like, if you want to know, like, what's Paul's biases or whatever, I think it is highly, I'll say it one more time, highly inappropriate that a clerk of court did what she did. That she wrote this book, that she had this inside access, the evidence has come out, the things that she said, obviously the plagiarism, and the judge will call her out at the end, and we're going to listen to that. So just know, I don't have a whole bunch of respect for Becky and the way she pillaged the situation. Now, Poot would question her in depth. Right off the bat, he established that they had no animosity, they were friendly during the trial, she did him little things and made things comfortable, and that was essentially her job, she said, was to make sure people had stuff and whatnot. But then he makes it clear to her that things are about to get heated, things are about to get turned up, okay? And they do. Now, he said he read her book, and she said she had fleeting thoughts to write this book before the trial, and that her and her co-author, who we'll talk more about in a minute, got together several weeks after the trial. She admitted to speaking to journalists and news anchors about writing a book. Poot and Becky would go head to head at one point in an exchange about a conversation that they had during trial where Poot claimed that Becky asked him about her daughter being on the jury, and this is how that went.
I'm not sure that we wanted her to be on the jury if at all possible, but I think the question was, would she make a good juror? And I said she sure would.
Now, I don't think we asked you. I think you told us she would make a great juror, did you not?
I remember you asking.
Okay.
Security. We need security in aisle 4. Okay, it's going down on aisle 4. Girls down aisle 4. He is sweeping the floor with her. And he will in a minute. Now, love him or hate him, I have to say this for old Poot. He ain't going to leave one stone unturned. He is going to search high and low for whatever he can, and he makes for good TV. And I know that's not his job. He's a defense person. I get it. But he makes for good television, okay? He just has this, personality. I was watching this when I was editing this video. We're going to take a little side sofa this story here very quickly. When I was editing the video, I had people over there listening, just hearing it. And they're like, who is this guy talking? They're like, he is like your typical just Southern, almost like Matlock kind of an attorney or whatever. And they were captivated by this. Like, they weren't familiar with the trial or anything like that. I know, shocking. But they became captivated just from listening to Poot talk and go head to head with Becky. And I was like, you just need to rewind about 6 months and just start from the beginning, because it is what it is. So just know that it is what it is. He makes for good television. And again, as far as defense attorney goes, I mean, you would want him in your corner, right? Defending you, because he's going to try and do everything possible. Now, Poot confronts her about an aspect of her book where she and a few others are coming back from Moselle, and they decided then and there that he is guilty. And here's how that part goes.
What each of us thought.
And they all 4 agreed that he was guilty, correct?
And none of us were jurors.
No, trust me, I know that.
Did you see the way Becky was like, and none of us were jurors? She was like, I'm going to come with the sass. I'm serving sass on aisle 4, 5, and 6, Mr. Poot. Do you want a serving of it? Because it's getting handed out freely right now. But Poot will ask her if she wants him to read the horrid descriptions she puts in the book. And she's like, no, I'll concede that, whatever I put in there, is what I put in there, but she adds a caveat. And, well, let's hear that.
I will concede that's what I wrote, but if I may, I would say that a lot of that is poetic license in writing a book and in making it sound like that.
Okay, so some of it's poetic license, and some of it you just stole. You purloined it from that BBC writer, right?
Woo! Okay. Shots fired on that one. Okay. When he said that, I was like, you knew they were going to get into it. Okay, if you followed this, you knew old Poot wasn't going to just let that go, okay? He has a point in it. Now, I love hearing her say things like literary terms like poetic license, literary ease, because I haven't read the book. From the people who've told me, they're like, yeah, it's like really poorly written. But what would you expect, right? I mean, this is somebody who's never written a book. However, when Poot calls her out, I was like, whoa. Let's hear what happens next.
You may continue, Mr. Harpootland.
Did you steal part of the book?
I did plagiarize,
Okay,
Mr. Hartfield.
that's stealing, isn't it?
And it is, and for
Okay.
that I'm very sorry, and I have apologized.
Okay. And that makes it okay?
What I did, and I apologized for that.
I'm having a drink to my eyes. I can't roll my eyes hard enough. The cringe on this, did you steal the book? I plagiarized. That's stealing. I was just like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This man just makes for good television. He's so quick. So quick. No, he's not going to hold back. Now, that being said, we're going to take a quick side trip about the plagiarized thing. What we're going to do is we're going to refer to an article that's going to go over just some key points of that. If you haven't followed this deeply, you can get a little bit more intel in it. But she 100% plagiarized. So on top of all this, she then gets hit with plagiarism. The book is pulled. One key theme to look at in places, was this worth it? You know what I'm saying? Was it worth your reputation, your career? Was it worth it? I guess so. Okay, so here you'll see the thing on the screen. Becky Hill, co-author, accuses her of plagiarism. Sales of Alec Murdaugh trial book halted. This is by Michael DeWitt Jr., Greenville News. Okay, let's go into the first page here. So on this first thing here, it says, the co-author, now controversial nonfiction book on the case. They've halted the book sales. It's called Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders. And the media statement from the co-author and journalist Neil Gordon announced that the co-authors of the book have made the difficult decision to unpublish the book and cease sales after revelations co-author Becky Hill plagiarized a portion of her book without co-author Neil Gordon's knowledge. Now, here's the thing with this. If you're writing a book with somebody and doing all this and they get caught up in this drama, and especially if this is what he does and that kind of thing, you're going to want to stop immediately. This is career ending for a writer, right? For what she did. And especially when she's like, well, I just got busy. I didn't have time to do that between tending the garden and getting to Mimos. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, girl, like, seriously? You thought you were going to get away with that. It blows my mind. Let's go on to a couple more pages of the article. So now the first thing just states he was going through, different emails that he got through the Freedom of Information Act, and he was reading stuff, all her emails and whatnot. And there was an email exchange between her and the British broadcasting company, BBC as we know them, in which the foreign journalist reportedly shared a long excerpt from an upcoming article about the trial. Let's go to that last page. So the top part just says he compared the article to a book passage in the preface of their book, and he realized that she basically had just, made it her own and stolen it. The last paragraph here just says that when he confronted her, she admitted that she did it due to the pressures of getting the book finished. Now he goes on to say at the very end, he's a veteran journalist and he can't condone it. So that's what I'm talking about. She's just somebody who wanted a quick dollar and fame and to do whatever, and so she's not going to be beholden to these, ethics and whatnot that people who have gone to school and done this as a, career and whatnot. And so for her to just say like, oh yeah, I just lifted it, no giving credit, no, she stole the work. I mean, I'm thinking like you could have gone to him and said, I don't have time to do this. How would you feel about doing blank? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many ways she could have done this, or gone to her co-author, look, we need to get this done. Here's this. What do we do? So it blows my mind that she just lifted it and didn't think that anything was going to come of that. So that's what's going on with that. So again, keep in mind for all this, the public shame, all this type of stuff, and now even this is gone. So there's that. Let's keep going. Now, Opoot's going to continue questioning her, and he's going to ask her why she made communications that the jury would not be out that long. And this is what Becky had to say.
I've been a court reporter for at least 14 years. I was clerk of court for 3. And you just get to where you kind of see things happen as they progress. And it's a guess. It's a gut feeling. And that's all that I meant by that.
Okay, now on this, I get where she's coming from. So like, say whatever your job is, and you kind of have a feeling like you've done it long enough to be like, this is probably how this situation is going to go. I understand that. I would like to think that somebody in this situation, though, would not make comments like this. Because again, I'm just placing myself, but who am I, right? Just somebody with a camera and a dog and a sofa, right? And not anybody. So I would like to think that I would not make a comment like that given her position and situation, because that's pretty heavy. They ain't going to be out long over this one. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if the judge said that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of hold anyone working in the courtroom up to that same standard. And maybe within that world, they're not living that way. But to me, I'm like, I don't care if you're the bailiff. I don't care if you're the judge. I don't care if you're the lawyer. I don't care if you're Becky. Like, I don't care if you're whatever. You know what I'm saying? If you're working in there and the jury is able to see you and hear you and interact with you, there needs to be a level of neutral ground that you hold. And I don't know if I'll put the clip in here, but old Poop brings up numerous times where she referred to herself as Switzerland, and it's like, are you serious? Like, the furthest thing from that. But that to me is what I expect out of everybody working in there. What they might go home to and talk to whoever, you know, at their house and all that, that's your business, you know what I'm saying? But in any form of anywhere, you're talking amongst each other in the car, whatever, you just need to zip that up. And I get that's really hard to do. But nonetheless, it's just, I feel like we arrive at situations like this if you don't do that.
That's true.
How much money did you make off that book?
There was not a whole lot of money made off of the book after paying different things and paying for some expenses that went along with that. But I want to say roughly around $100,000.
Please drink it from the cuppeth if you have it. And we're drinking from the cuppeth over this. I didn't make a lot of money off of it. Probably $100,000. What? Off a self-published book? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I thought she was to say $5,000. When she said that, Roscoe jumped off the damn sofa when we first watched it. I mean, I'm just like, are you kidding? And then when she said some expenses that went along with it, I was like, what, like attorneys for plagiarizing? That part was wild to me. Just like, are you kidding me? $100,000, you split it and then pay taxes, but you can write tons of stuff off. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, girl, no, you made a pretty damn penny off of this. And Poot will bring up that this was like over a 6-month period. So I'm like, that's a lot of money, okay? A lot of people don't make that in a year at their jobs. And you're making it in 6 months on top of your job. You know, so, I'm imagining she gets paid a decent amount for that. So anyways, now when Poot gets to a part about her calling the Murdaugh criminals in her book, her grandfather, I believe she said, was very close with Buster. Not Buster that we know of, the grandfather Buster. Alex's dad, whatever. So, and kind of insinuating and calling them criminals and this kind of stuff, right? One thing to keep in mind is the small town good old boy system here. And it's very hard. I mean, I come from a small town, but in this world where they live, this is like a very tight-knit thing. So whereas like, she's like, oh, well, my grandfather worked with them and blah, 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 blah. The stretch that the Murdaughs have over generations is vast and deep. And so probably for her, it was like this, oh, they finally got something on them. And probably for a lot of people it was that way. That's at least the vibe I got. So anyways, let's see what happens when he confronts her about using that word criminals.
The literary ease that you can take when writing a book.
Literary ease you can take with writing a book. You can make stuff up. You can lie. You can lie about people.
Not with that. I think the public perception was one that it was very interesting.
I mean, she's scrambling for words. She's just tossing that words out as hard as she can. Literary ease. Like she's been studying Shakespeare her whole damn life. I mean, come on, right? I get what she's saying. I mean, what she can't say up there is she's going to make it salacious. Yeah, I haven't read it, but I can already imagine some of the sentences in there, right? You know, like this crime family and did all this crazy stuff. And she's getting up there saying like, yeah, a lot of this stuff I'm just going based on word of mouth and making stuff up, you know, making it a little bit more, you know, enticing. Now, the next part had Roscoe and I falling off the sofa. He confronts her about specific things that she said about him and his co-counsel. We just have to listen to it to believe it.
In describing myself and Mr. Griffin, in the book you say that I neutered him. We've both been very interested in what you meant by that.
I would have fallen out of the witness stand talking about my heart, my baby, something. Something. I don't even was pregnant, right? I would have just collapsed to the floor. This is what I'm talking about with Pooh. He knew exactly what he was doing using this for ammo because it's a shocking thing to say and to confront the author. What did you mean by you neutered us? My co-counsel, I love how he said his co-counsel because he cared too. My co-counsel didn't think it was funny. I'm like, oh, Pooh talked about that for a week solid at his house, right? So the fact that he asked her that, I was like, oh my God, this dude has zero chill, okay? He has been waiting to publicly ask her that. It might be even why we're even having this trial. He might be like, I'm going to go up there for Alex, but I'm sliding this one in. I want to know what she's talking about.
This whole scheme was about selling books, as you told Rhonda McElveen. If him being found guilty would sell more books.
Now again, I'll give this to old Pooh. He's got a way of delivering and rounding things all the way back out. And he does it very wonderfully. And he's not lying, okay? This was a huge thing about selling books. I would almost argue to say, and again, I'm not in the literary world, but ponder this for a moment. With this specific case, do we think that a not guilty verdict and him walking on those charges would have just been even more bizarre than guilty? Right? But people would be like, what? I want to read what happened. I want to see the inside. How did he walk? Because again, this is very divided and I'm talking about like what you see in the comment sections and this and that and blah, 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 people's opinions on whether he's guilty in the way that they say he's guilty, if that makes sense. Or if he has been completely set up and, so-and-so did it and it was really this and they were making it out to look like him and all that kind of stuff, right? So, but the majority being that I see people siding with the man's guilty of these crimes, right? In some fashion, he did this, right? So if it was not guilty, I almost think it wouldn't have mattered in this case because people would be very curious about it. So I thought that was interesting. Now, he will then go into the point blank, hard-hitting questions, boom, 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 and she will deny every single one of them. But let's take a look at a couple of them about these specific instances that they are claiming of things that she did.
But before Mr. Murdaugh testified, did you tell the jury not to be fooled by the evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's lawyers?
Mr. Harpootlian, I never talked to the jurors about any of the evidence
Okay, the
in this
answer would be
case.
yes or no, then you can explain. Did you say that?
No.
Ooh, okay, so no, that was a big one. Because obviously if she said that, don't be fooled and whatnot, that's huge, right? Now again, it's her word against whoever.
Okay. Did you ever instruct the jury to watch him closely immediately before he testified, looking at his actions, looking at his movements? Did you ever tell the jury to do that?
No.
Again, okay, her word against theirs, major.
Did you ever tell the jury to pay attention to Mr. Murdaugh's testimony?
To pay attention, not specifically to his testimony. I did tell the jury to pay attention.
To what?
Just generally in the hallway when I was speaking.
Not to him?
No.
Just any witness?
Right.
I'm so sure. What this reeks of to me is somebody doing too much. Okay, let's just break it down to those terms. Somebody doing too much. Again, I don't know. I don't know. So there's that. You might be like, well, Paul, I'm a clerk of court and that's what we do all the time. Okay, I'll concede to that then. But the way she's talking, I'm reading between the lines and whatnot, because the judge will say she's not a credible witness, right? And I don't think so either. I mean, she's shown that, right? She's a dishonest person. I feel like she was doing too much. It was like the time of her life. It was the most attention she'd ever gotten, and she was drunk with it, right? She was in this realm like, oh, I'm sitting here in this major case. I'm writing this book. I'm doing this. I'm going to really be extra and like, okay, now jury, really pay attention to what he's saying. Do this and do that. And you know what I mean? Instead of just being like, okay, we're going to bring you out. Just, make sure you're alert, that type thing, whatever. And who knows, maybe she did that. No one will ever know at this point except the people in the room. We can only go between what was said and how it was said and the context in that moment, which is so hard to go back and really decipher.
Did you ever warn the jurors the defense is about to do their side? This is right before, right at the beginning of the defense case. They are going to say things that will try to confuse you. Don't let them confuse you or convince you or throw you off. Did you ever tell the jury that?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever tell the jury, if you get emotional, we want to see your face because that is what they want to see? You ever tell them that?
No, sir.
Can you imagine if she really said that? Those things right there. If you get emotional, we want to see your face. I mean, come on, right? And it's like, where are they coming up with this stuff from, okay? Because she's saying no, he's saying she said it, Jersey's saying this. It's all very like, where did this come from? Was it just made up? Because it's so cringy. And again, if there's anything of that being said, imagine saying that to the jury. Now, if you cry, show the cameras. I mean, come on, right? I'd be pissed too.
Now, did you tell the jury that if they didn't reach a verdict by 10 o'clock, they were going to have to spend the night?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you ever tell them they were going to have to spend the night at
No,
some
sir.
point? Did you ever tell them that they couldn't smoke?
No, sir.
So, bam, 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 no, no, no. All these things. Flat out denies these allegations. Again, somewhere in the middle is the truth on them. Now, let's go ahead and hear, we've seen these bits and pieces I wanted to show you. Let's hear what the judge had to say about this. What is she thinking about this debacle that has played out in front of her? She'll say that the defense has to prove that not only Rebecca made these comments, but that they influenced the jury or jurors' verdict.
I find that the clerk of court is not completely credible as a witness. Ms. Hill was attracted by the siren call of celebrity. She wanted to write a book about the trial and expressed that as early as November 2022, long before the trial began.
Read her for filth, Judge. Where's the lie, right? She's not credible as a witness. You can't really believe her. There's so much surrounding her. And I think that that's what it is. And it's a shame to see that someone exploited this situation, risked their livelihood. I mean, they did. It's like, is it worth it? That's what I'm talking about. All this was put out there. And for what, right? Now we're here. Look at how much money this is probably costing that town. You know what I'm saying? Time, resources, all this. It's absolutely crazy. Now, the judge will note that she does deny this. However, the judge said that she did find that Rebecca stated to others that she had the desire for a guilty verdict because it would sell books. Also, that she made comments about Alex's demeanor before he testified to jurors. However, when it came to whether this had an impact, the judge had this to say.
Did Clerk of Court Hill's comments have any impact on the verdict of the jury? I find that the answer to this question is no. Each member of this jury took their involuntary assignment very seriously. They obeyed the instructions of the court. They obeyed their oath.
Now, this came as a total shock to me because when Jersey was up there, I was like, it's wrap. New trial's on the way, right? Completely a total shock to me. Now, you saw Alex's face. It was like he was expecting it, right? Because in his world, he's probably thinking, I'm being framed, I'm being this. Not framed, but you know what I'm saying? Like, everything's working against him. Remember, he's already pled guilty and been sentenced for those major financial crimes. Just on those alone, which he has readily admitted to. There is no, I did it. You got me red-handed kind of a thing, right? Just that alone, if he were able to walk out of prison, he would be a very old man doing it, right? So, I mean, not completely old, but I mean, he ain't no spring chicken, right? He's my age. So he would be way on up there. Anyways, so that's already going on with him, but I digress. Let's go to the next clip. We're almost done. Hang in there.
They either heard no comment, or if they heard a comment, it had no effect. One juror was ambivalent in her testimony. She was then examined on her previous affidavit, in which she said the effect, if any, that she had was pressure she felt from other jurors.
Now, the judge would say that pressure from other jurors is a normal part of the normal give and take of jury deliberations. And on the subject of old Rebecca Hill, the judge did have some choice words for her.
I simply do not believe that the authority of our South Carolina Supreme Court requires a new trial in a very lengthy trial such as this on the strength of some fleeting and foolish comments by a publicity-influenced clerk of court.
Woo, mama. She told her like it was. Now, here's the thing. So you heard her. She's denied the motion. Okay, so there's that. Now, she will go on to say that basically this is uncharted territory for me. I mean, this is brand new. So we're going to let this go to where it can be more dissected. And, you know, basically, I don't know if I did this right, but this is my rule and this is how I view it. So it's going to go to the next stage. And they can take their time and get through it and do all this kind of stuff. So there's that. So no new trial according to this judge. However, However, she's very readily being like, let's send it on to the next stage. So, that being said, couple of things. First of all Alex has only time, right? And as long as they're willing to shell out money, I'm sure old Poot's going to be right there to take it and do these motions and whatnot. Whether to just clear his name or get him out or whatever. So, that being said, I was shocked that he didn't get a new trial. I'm not going to lie. Does that mean I agree, disagree, whatever? Irrelevant. I honestly thought with all that we have seen, I was like, new trial. It's just inevitable. But then as more evidence came out and most of the jury was like, nah, it didn't really play a thing, and no, it didn't do this. But having that one juror, it's like, kind of a thing. Having the clerk of court, just all of that, it really surprised me that just didn't outweigh anything. But again, essentially the judge is also like, the evidence is so compelling, this doesn't outweigh that kind of a thing is how I interpret it. I will be very surprised if once this doesn't go up to the next level, to the appellate court, whatever, that he doesn't get a new trial there. I would be shocked if he doesn't. I mean, I just feel like I can't believe it. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't work in this world. So I don't know exactly. People who are of that world might look at it and be like, oh, this is a no-brainer. They're not going to overturn that. Like, the evidence is too compelling and this doesn't outweigh it and this is, whatever. But again, I just feel like when you have somebody pulling these antics like this, it's absolutely ridiculous. And hearing her up there, and her by that, I mean Rebecca Hill, and answering these questions from Poot and whatnot, you just hear where, the judge is right. It's like, this was a fame and money hungry person who exploited their position to get ahead, and it blew up in her face in a major way. I don't know if she still lives around there. I would have moved, right? Her son's gotten in trouble. I mean, so many people have gone down over this, and it's just like greed. You know what I mean? Like, that seems to have overridden any common sense in this. And her reputation, her livelihood, her job, it's all gone away. This whole thing where she was telling somebody allegedly, I want to retire, I'll sell a book and do this and do that. Look at where you're at now, right? So I'm sure Alex mentally was prepared to be like, it ain't gonna happen. But I, again, was just surprised. I will be interested to see if Poot uses the whole thing about the jury listening in on court TV in the beginning. Juror Z. But we heard from the other jurors, and at the end of the day, they're all saying it didn't influence them, or they didn't hear this, they didn't hear that. Now, they shouldn't have even been open to that in the first place. Rebecca and anyone else should not have even created that scenario. And so that's where I feel like, okay, if you're going to do a new trial based on that there's that. Now, the secondary question to ask will be, if the new trial happened, or if it does whatever, what will be allowed in, right? With the financial stuff, because that's already been done. It opens up a whole can of worms. The point being, we are far from done from being inundated with Alec Murdaugh stuff, right? It'll probably go dormant for a while, just simply because of the nature of it. I mean, this has happened, and so it's like, this matter is settled for now, but it's going to go through the next round of everything. So, or until one of the Murdaughs does something crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? If that happens, we don't know. Anyways, I am dying to know what y'all think. These are my main Sofa Squad questions. Did you think he was going to get a new trial? If so, why? Did you think he was not going to get a new trial? If so, why? And that's it. So, if you're still watching, I do appreciate it very much. Roscoe says thank you. Roscoe says, drop these sofas. I want the sofas in the comments section. And until Roscoe and I dance and sing our way down to that comment section, we'll see y'all soon.